This game has generated quite a buzz, but does it live up to the hype? Let's start with the gameplay. The units feel boring and not well made. All units move at the same speed, and the balance between their toughness and damage doesn't make sense. Even though the game is in beta, these problems are too big to ignore and might not be fixed soon. Now, let's talk about the co-op mission. It's pretty much what you'd expect from an SC2 co-op mission. There are 3 players instead of 2, but it's the same pseudo-campaign gameplay. Just like in SC2, you choose a commander who levels up between missions and modifies the core mechanics of their faction. Each commander in Stormgate is also a hero unit you can control on the field. Hopefully, at some point, we'll get some non-hero commanders for variety's sake. You'll also have access to call-down abilities from the top bar, just like in SC2. Currently, there are 3 commanders to choose from. Blockade of the Human Vanguard faction is a sci-fi paladin, armed with a warhammer and an arsenal of healing and defensive abilities, paired with a tanky army. Malik is a fire mage of the Infernal faction, all about nuking enemies with powerful spells. If you love co-op in SC2, this is pretty much more of the same, which is both the best and worst thing about it. The gameplay loop remains strong, but there really isn't anything too different about Stormgate's version of it. It's hard to see why anyone would switch from SC2 to Stormgate for this kind of gameplay. While the setup of co-op is pure SC2, the core gameplay of Stormgate feels much more like Warcraft 3. The pace of combat is quite slow, making good use of your hero's spells is essential, and there are even creep camps to hunt, though they provide only minor perks rather than essential items. Again, this kind of gameplay can be fun, but Stormgate isn't doing anything to put its own spin on it. It feels more like a mod for Warcraft 3 than a new game. Stormgate has 3 multiplayer modes: 1v1 PvP, 3v3 PvP, and a co-op 3ve mode against AI. The 3v3 mode is designed to be more casual. The game will have a ladder system for 1v1 matches and a tournament system for multiplayer, allowing players to create leagues within the game. Multiplayer matches are expected to last around 20 minutes, with a range of 15 to 30 minutes. There are some small nuances that are different. Buildings and units can be trained from globally available menus, removing the need to select individual structures or workers. This is a good quality of life improvement, and it's great to see this becoming the new normal for the RTS genre. Co-op actually incentivizes you to destroy enemy bases, as it prevents those bases from sending attack waves. That's a nice change, since in SC2 co-op enemy buildings are basically just window dressing, and there's no value in killing them. There are also some quirks to the resource mechanics that are new, plus other small differences from the RTS games of old. Stormgate doesn't currently stand out artistically either. The biggest concern was that Stormgate lacked the cool factor of the Blizzard games it seeks to emulate. The world and lore don't appeal, nor do the aesthetics. Nothing seen in the game so far changes this view. The graphics try to emulate the colorful style of Blizzard, but without the same personality. Terrain textures are flat and oversaturated, and maps feel empty and sterile. Visual clarity is an issue too. The buildings within each faction tend to have very similar color schemes and silhouettes. Thankfully, the global build menu keeps players from having to remember which is which, because it's hardly clear at a glance. Sound design is similarly rough. Hopefully, this is a beta issue and most of the current audio is placeholder, but currently, it's pretty bad. Unit voiceovers all sound like they're mumbling into a low-quality mic, and the combat sounds aren't enjoyable at all. The firearms sound like cap guns, not high-powered sci-fi assault weapons. The dialogue from the current co-op mission's villain is by far the worst heard in a video game. It would be embarrassing to play this mission in front of any friends, lest they hear the gravel-voiced post-apocalyptic warlord deliver such groaners as, "Ha, you are weak and teensy." Yes, a lot of these complaints are subjective, and a lot may be fixed between now and launch. But combined with the lack of any fresh ideas in the gameplay, Stormgate just doesn't deliver any cool factor. The world isn't compelling, the visuals aren't appealing, none of the units feel exciting to use. Yes, the game is in an early state, but there's been enough experience to develop some instinct for when the problem with a game is that it's unfinished versus when the fundamental concepts are flawed. The current beta build for Stormgate seems to suffer from both issues. There are a lot of technical and balance issues that aren't even mentioned because those will likely be fixed before early access. So, is Stormgate worth playing? As it stands right now, it's hard to recommend. There's potential here, but the game needs a lot of work to stand out in the crowded RTS market. If you're a hardcore RTS fan, it might be worth keeping an eye on. But don't expect it to replace your current favorite anytime soon. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more game reviews.